Welcome to Mindless Shenanigans, where the takes are hot, the jokes are wild, and nothing is off limits. Quick disclaimer. Everything you hear is strictly opinion, personal perspective, or just flat out nonsense. We do not condone violence or violence behavior. Don't come for us. This is for entertainment purposes only, not facts, not legal advice, and definitely not safe for any sensitive ears. So buckle up and let the shenanigans begin. Welcome to another episode of Mindless Shenanigans. I am your host, Sir Don. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe to Mindless Shenanigans to all your favorite platforms. As you can see, it go on the top of the screen. Make sure you subscribe, all right, and download the recent episodes wherever you get your audio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find it at. All right, we everywhere. You can't miss it. All right, shenanigans all the time, every day. Last time we was here, we talked about gaining your attention back. All right, things and tips we can do to limit our screen time, to limit the way we engage with. But that's easier said than done. How do you do that? What's that process and that path start like that? Starts with emotional discipline. So that's the path we're going to take. That's what we're going to talk about. Obviously going to get your attention back. Obviously going to get your time back. All right. And stop messing around with non-productive time. Yes, it's time for shenanigans too. So what is emotional discipline? Emotional discipline. So being able to feel everything, but not reacting. Easier said than done, right? So, of course, people get triggered by different things, right? Whether it be at work, your relationship, home, everyday life. There's plenty of things that can set you off, give you an emotional reaction, but is that reaction worth your time? Not everything is reactive worthy. Last week I said it. Reacting to everything is a sign of weakness. Emotional discipline is a sign of strength. Some people look at reacting as suppressing feelings. To not reacting is suppressing your feelings. When it's actually emotional discipline and strength and maturity. Emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. Not that they don't care. Is that they care more about the risk of the reaction than it is at the time. And last week I said sometimes it's better just to pause, walk away, take a deep breath. Something still you are surely got to get better at. Is control over response. There are ways to get your message across, right? Without being loud, without raising your voice, cursing, right? Knocking things over the desk. Your response is more important, your reaction to what's actually happening. Think about that. How many times have you had to go back and say, I was tripping? Not that you're not in the right of feeling how you're feeling, but did your reaction call for that? Compared to times that something that you might have should have reacted to, you didn't. Now, we all got this saying that we done heard of and been told. Couldn't have been me. Are you better than me? Somebody is acknowledging your emotional maturity, right, and emotional intelligence, because what they're telling you is obviously they wouldn't have reacted or handled it that way. So you did something right, even if somebody don't even agree with it. Don't let anybody confuse that neither. Because you got to carry the weight of the reaction that you give. Right? You can't be mad at how somebody respond to the energy that you give them. Okay? There's no way. So think about what causes your reaction. What triggers you, right? Disrespect. Some people ways of disrespect or what they might take as disrespect might not trigger somebody else. Whether it be a joke, whether it be appropriate or not, right? You can't tell me how to react to something. You can't tell me how to feel, right? Disagreements. Some people don't like confrontation, so it's better probably to stay quiet than anything else. One thing is, another favorite line of ours, I can show you better, I can tell you. How many times have you had to use that on somebody? How many times have you heard that used on somebody or somebody had to tell you? Because I'm not going to keep telling you nothing. Might say it once to give you the benefit of the doubt just because you may not know. So it's not fair to judge you on that. But once you do know and I have to say you again, yeah, that's a decision that's being made. So I said what I said. I can show you better, I can tell you. If you stay tuned, you're going to get both. If you stay tuned, you're going to get both. Because the most thing that people don't realize is when they're walking right into the reaction window, the setup, the pitch, the whine, right before you take a swing at it, you're walking right into the reaction window. They set your triggers off, right? Because one of the things that could trigger somebody just naturally, right? Maybe your tone of voice or when you're speaking, you're feeling ignored, right? You can get triggered, you can get upset, right? It's okay to have those feelings. It's the reaction that we give is what's important. Don't miss that part. It's okay to have your feelings. How we express them is what's more important. Because do you think your point is going to get across when you're volatile? Now you might have tried a different approach, and maybe that's what you felt like because you were frustrated, weren't being heard, right? Ignored. And this is not your feeling. We all have done it, no matter how big or small the situation was, right? So think about it. There's a trigger and there's a reaction. It's only this much space in between those. And it's not that far apart and it doesn't take long to get there. 0 to 100 real quick. Realest bar, right? How many times have we went to 0 to 100 real quick? Got cut off in air, cut off when you're driving, right? People aren't reacting to their reality. They're reacting to their triggers. Because if we were reacting to our reality, would our response be what it was? That's simple. That window is tight and small. How can you increase that window from the time something triggers you to the time you react? Let's find that out, right? If you skip the window and dive right in and react quickly, what you have the risk to lose is going to go deeper than just the confrontation, right? Because if you were to go straight into that window, take your time. Don't be like Debo and Smokey trying to run it out to get that 200. You might need that lookout like Craig, somebody to blow the whistle. Keep accountability partner too. That helps, right? Don't, sorry, do not, do not ignore your triggers. If you're aware of your triggers, it's okay to share them too. The reason that is somebody else not only could recognize when you're reacting to something that you're triggered by compared to something you're reacting to what's actually happening in the reality, right? And I'm not saying to share all your business and pour everything out. But for example, if you've been, unfortunately, let's say, scared upon or harassed or attacked, you might not like somebody to come up behind you and maybe tap you on the shoulder to get your attention if they don't hear you, if they're calling your name. You may be prefer somebody to call out to you from a distance. So that way you can hear, turn around and see them. Compared to if I tap you on your shoulder, you turn around and swing because that's a natural defense reaction. I can't be upset that you got triggered. It might throw me off, but you got triggered, right? And it's okay to give a warning. Before you react, discipline people on a pause. Okay. They're going to have a chosen response, a calculated response. For them, they're going to assess the situation, assess the process and the reaction. That's why some of y'all that be hating on the people that be say they like too cool and some more stuff, them the people that are mostly disciplined, that are relaxed, and situationally aware. Never too high, never too low, right in between. And go ahead and subscribe, all right, to catch all the latest shenanigans. Drop a comment, tell us what you think. Back to it. If you're going to be emotionally disciplined, you got to take your time and pause. Assess the situation. When you're triggered, all your emotions flare out, your logic leads. So you're now becoming emotionally hijacked because of your trigger. When your logic takes over your emotions, there is no reasoning behind your actions. So when you talk to me with your logic, not with your emotions. Explain to me how you feel. Express it with your logic. Tell me about how you feel. Because if you show me, then now you have to be ready for my reaction. I can show you better. I can tell you too. I said what I said. And listen here first. But so one of the things that I can speak on is when it comes to emotional discipline for myself is one of those signs that you can tell when you're not emotionally disciplined in that moment and you're not using your logic and you're just being emotional. When you're replying too quick, you raise your voice or it gets elevated, right? Some people might consider this passion or, right? Some people say you are being emotional, but I've been taught a word to you, and I've been taught, but use a different word, elevated. Your voice gets elevated, right? So that's when you can tell somebody is triggered or stressed, right? But how many of us talk like that just in general when we're going back and forth with your peoples, right? Like, 'cause some of us can go back and forth with the rah, 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 and it might not even be nothing volatile, but that's just how we talk, right? Like, that's just what we doing. Ain't nobody upset or frustrated, but that's how we talk. For some people, that's triggering. They might not be able to be around that, hang around that. or engage in those type of things, not because it's actual danger, but it's danger to them. So they might step away from the group or be more quiet, less likely to open up when that's happening. Because what do you do to protect yourself if you notice that you are triggered, right? Another way to find out and see uh, of somebody that's being triggered, right, is impulsive decision making, right? So you can say people make impulsive decisions about everyday things, right? When you're stressing, right, and you're going through something, what's your first thing you will do? You'll sit down and pause and figure out, or do we show comfort to our vices? We make us do what's comfortable in the meantime until we can figure it out what's right, or until we no longer have to worry about it. Having regrets right after, having a defensive tone, with somebody talking to you, that's a sign of somebody being triggered. How many times have you asked a question to somebody, they just get defensive right away? You can have a soft, hands-on hug approach, and it's a defensive tone. I mean, they're triggered. But how many of us know that we've actually triggered somebody too, though, and either ignored it or tried to empathize with them, right? Try to be aware of what we do to trigger people in ourselves too. That's important. A lot of us miss that. And how you gonna handle that weight when you're aware that you triggered somebody, or if you're not aware you triggered somebody, come to find out that you did, right? So don't let your reaction to, don't let your emotional hijack also affect your long-term thinking, right? So how many of you have a partner and then something going wrong or it's going bad and you make a decision that can affect the long-term status or, the health of your relationship? Words being said, you might go do something, right, out of spite, out of anger, all because your emotion is rising and your logic is thrown out the window. Well, then on the flip side, somebody gonna say, well, they did that when they was mad. That's a reason to go do what they did because they're no longer thinking logically. So that intent, that desire, how that may have been there or how they felt, but they were using logic. Because you can't sometimes control how you feel. You can always control how you react, though. Like, follow, and share, subscribe to Mindless Shenaniganz. Can y'all hear me? Are you listening? It's hard to ignore everything or anything when you feel everything. It's hard to. Some of us are so overstimulated sometimes because you feel everything. Some people gonna call you sensitive. Some people are gonna say you good with picking up and reading energy. How many times have you walked in the room and your vibe and energy just been thrown off? That's a trigger right there. There's something off. Maybe something in the room. Somebody. Right? Make it make sense. So everybody wants to know or thinks about the outcome of the reaction, or they don't care about it until then, right? Because doing arguments or doing a reaction, arguments do escalate. I'm sorry. Most of the time, when you're triggered, arguments happen, things like that. But if you're not emotionally disciplined and give a reaction that's not controlled, they escalate. Misunderstanding happens. You got more stress. You're worried, right? Because you're not only triggered about what happened, because now your emotions are rising, flaring up. Things are getting worse. Now, because if you're in an argument or in a disagreement and you're not using your logic, how does that go in with the dialogue, right? It's hard not to react when you feel everything. And you can't tell anybody how to feel. You definitely can't tell them how to react. When you react to everything or give a reaction, right? Another thing that can happen on the outcome is your reputation, right? People may or may not want to approach you, conversate with you because of a reaction that you gave. Regardless if it was because of what they did or did not do, because of your reaction that they seen, they can change their perspective on you. Your perspective is your reputation. Period. People say it doesn't matter what people think until it's time to interact with them. So, okay, you don't care what so-and-so thinks over there. If there's any time that not you may need to interact with them, somebody you know has that perception imprinted on them, not because they think of it, but they heard how somebody else feel of you, your reputation, right? That's no different than if you are a content creator or a business owner. So-and-so is great. They on time. They actually early. They good with communication compared to maybe their one experience with you was bad. That can ruin your reputation. So watch how do we react, right? The more we react, the more energy it costs you. The more attention, right, it's going to take from you. When you're triggered, you're going to get drained. No matter if you argue for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the intensity of your energy being used going to take away from you. You might not have when going to work today because of what happened earlier, right? Or something might happen in traffic, you know what I'm saying? Or you might have had one on your way to try to do an errand, something went wrong, right? Or your car got locked up or something like that. And now you just, maybe all things to react to for, but the more we react to, the more you're going to get drained. Don't be tired out here. It's okay to feel what you feel, but watch how we're actually using our energy. That's what matters. Because you have to be aware of what you give your energy to in order to maintain your emotional discipline. Your emotional discipline does factor into your path and all your decisions in life, right? So, for example, I feel like some of the areas that I choose, that I know being disciplined in, right? Using my free time, right? So what am I doing when I'm not being productive, right? Yes, you need rest. Yes, you need sleep, right? Unplugging, right? Am I taking care of myself? Not only just mentally, physically, right? One way is being disciplined is how we eat, how I eat, right? So yes, I want to enjoy something that may seem unpleasant to some people, right? But not eating out fast food, right? We know where to stay away from, not what to touch, right? How many of us can go a long time or an extended period of time, right, with retention? How long have you been disciplined to just, if you a single man out here and you can get, you have a choice, right? How many guys are getting everything they can get in a time instead of picking, right? What they consider top priority, high value women, right? That's discipline. Choosing not to is discipline. You can go get it whenever you want from whoever you want. It's worth your energy. It's worth your time, right? Let's be disciplined on how we get or give our attention to, right? When it comes to dating or somebody serious, right? Everybody you meet ain't worth meeting your mama. Everybody you meet isn't worth bringing around the homeboys or the homegirls. Ladies, you can get approached by how many guys a day? You have discipline by turning down the people that you know, or the guys or women that you know that's not worth your time. Some gonna call it choosing. You can say that's discipline. Because yeah, a bunch of guys can offer you a whole bunch of different things or the same things, but what's the part after that? Same goes for guys. It's 100 women looked up there, lined up. Fine. What's gonna set them apart that you want? That's discipline. Discipline is ignoring the noise online. When you see something online that's supposed to bait you for a reaction and you don't respond, hit the comment, upload, that's discipline. Right? So we all gotta be better at that in multiple areas. Right? So don't regret replaying the moment later for that. Be disciplined. If you react the wrong way, it can cost you more than just your reputation, respect, opportunities, relationships. What are your value on those things when you react? Yes, and people always say in hindsight when we come back to it, that's why you don't want to have regrets. Your reaction can cost you more than the actual problem that you're presenting. Take a step back and pause. Assess the situation. Right? Sometimes you might not have the 5 to 10 minutes to do all that, especially if it's a back and forth or engagement conversation with another individual. At that point, you need to say or ask, is it okay to have this conversation later when you're ready? Right? When you can actually use your logic, right? Because you're going to feel how you feel regardless. right? But your logic is going to change the more time from your window, from your trigger to your reaction. The pattern, cycle, trigger, reaction, repeat. Trigger, reaction, regret. Trigger, reaction, repeat, regret. How many times have you done that yourself? That you had to apologize for overreacting, assuming, insinuating, right? How many times have you felt bad because you used your logic later to replay the situation, assess the situation, and acknowledge where your logic was thrown because you were mostly hijacked? How many times have you been a victim to somebody else's trigger reaction? They apologize. Do it again. So if you've been on both sides, that means one, you can empathize when somebody else is triggered. You know what to do now when you get triggered. We all been there. We all done it. We all just got to get better. So let's do it for yourself, the people around you, and we all be better. So we'll be great and good. Everything's not going to be good or great every day, but the bigger window we can have from the trigger to the reaction, the less chaos we'll probably have. And that's real, because who want to see that cycle? We have to be better at identifying our triggers, right? Having a more slowed down response, building your awareness. Some of us need to be probably isolated to understand why we're doing what we're doing, right? Some of us might need outside guidance, right? Somebody to talk to, right? Yes, it can be therapy, or it could just be your friend, that person, somebody who listens to, who you need to get that honest feedback to you, right? But you got to be okay with listening to that too, because you might get triggered. How are you going to react to that? Right? So yes, regret is one of your responses to when you get triggered, but what is another response too? Where's the self-improvement? You'll regret it, but are you holding yourself accountable? You might apologize, right, for doing what you're doing, but can you also explain why you did what you did or how you reacted? You can explain how you felt, but does that explain to why you saying you reacted that way? Well, I didn't feel unheard, so I just yelled and screamed at everybody. That's why you did it. That's not valid though. That's not okay. Don't mean we all haven't done it, right? So, or more, because I wasn't being heard, I stopped speaking. Right? Different reaction, control response, different outcome. People want to know, well, why are you not saying anything? You weren't listening. So, and me raising my voice, only thing it's going to do is bring attention to the tone of my voice and not the words that I'm saying. So let me show you better. I can tell you. I said what I said. So build awareness, do better, and do that. And that's all it is. That's all you got to do. So how do we get better to actually getting that emotional discipline into your pattern or sequence of being triggered to having that long pause and opening your window, right? And you get triggered, let's now pause, process it. You got to write it down, take a picture. I don't give a fuck. Do it. Then respond, then move on. So if you get triggered, you pause, you process. You should have a better response, a more controlled response, which should help you move on, which should eliminate any confusion, misunderstandings, right? That's where a lot of things happen. So that's what makes the changes happen next. Excuse me. Your emotional awareness increases because you have less reactions. The more you're aware of things, the less likely you need to react. Your reactions decrease because your pause is longer. That window from the trigger to the response is opening up. Mental clarity. The longer you pause before you react, you have a better clarity of it because you're not using an emotional impulse. What that's going to lead to is going back to what can cost you, like your reputation and things like that. You're going to gain more respect because when people try to trigger you or gaslight you and they can't get you to do what they think they're going to get out of you, they're going to get respect for you too. More respect, the ones who do, and the ones who weren't aware are going to do if they're paying attention. So you're doing it for yourself and everybody around you. What I mean when I say that is your reaction, anything that's non-violent or volatile, is protecting your mental peace and the people around you by making them aware that you have emotional discipline and control. So the more you show that, the more people will respond to you differently too. Right? So like at work, you get triggered, somebody either say something to you or call you out, whether they right or wrong. Is your response going to affect your perception at work, your relationship with your coworkers, and how things go? Right? Like, let's make it known that you are not emotionally disciplined. So if you're in the work environment, how are you going to be professional if you can't control your reaction to somebody approaching you about doing your job to standard that needs to be done, right? You get caught up by your boss or a supervisor. Hey, this is what we're seeing. We need improvement for you. Oh, well, so-and-so ain't over here doing nothing and this and that. So y'all can't get on me. Where's your accountability at? Why are you worried about what somebody else doing in the first place? Snitching. Get out of here. Yeah, that's something bad. Me snitching. and we snitching. But we talked about it, right? Going back to how you do business, right? So if you're doing business with somebody and they're not communicating or holding up in their deal, are you going to match their energy and just say, okay, I'm going to be unprofessional too? I'm not going to respond back. I'm not going to do my job. I'm going to be late on my deadline. Things like that too. Just because they unprofessional or doing something, if you match that, you might not talk bad on them, but they might talk bad about you. You gonna risk your reputation? Is that what you willing to risk? Because how you feel, your reaction. Man, I like what they doing. Your relationship with your partner. When they do something you don't like, do you voice it and let them know and explain it to them? Or do you react? You go tick for tack. Do you show them better you can tell them? Right? Do you seek to understand? Right? How many of us do that? Seek to understand before we react. Are we asking enough questions? Are we truly trying to understand what we're seeing? Because what you're seeing is not what you saw isn't always what you're seeing. Make sure you get clarity on that before reacting. Save you a lot of stress, a lot of time, a lot of headache, a lot of pain. We got to do better. I got to do better. Don't let your emotions overcome your logic. Don't let it overtake what you do. There's been plenty of times where I can say that I've overreacted to a situation that I didn't use my whole window, kept it real close. Now you can say, well, it might have been something that you might have deserved a reaction to, or you might have got fed up, something like that. It don't even matter. Why put myself in that situation or get to that point? I'm still accountable for my reactions and what people think or see on that, right? You can't control how people feel, but you can influence it. Don't forget that. You're a bigger force than you think. Don't forget that either. Don't forget to use your weight. Sometimes people need to feel it, how heavy things can get. Let them understand. You don't have to raise your voice. You just have to be clear. So ask yourself this. Are you reacting to your reality? Are you reacting to your triggers? And what are you doing about it? What is your window to your reaction? What is your trigger? You can't control what people say. Can't control what people do. You can't control how you can respond, though. Control what you can control and be the best version of you. I am Sir Dar. This is Mindless Shenanigans. Thank you for tuning in. Check us out everywhere. We appreciate, we love y'all. Tune in next time. Got more shenanigans coming.
That's a wrap on this episode of Mindless Shenanigans. We appreciate you tapping in and vibing with us. If you laughed, learned, or yelled at your screen at any point, go ahead and follow us everywhere. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, all of it. Just search Mindless Shenanigans. Don't forget to subscribe, rate the show, and share it with someone who needs the shenanigans in their life. New episodes dropping weekly. Until next time, stay safe, stay real, and stay a little mindless.